We were excited to get out here yesterday. It was our first time since the players have been back. We've been here 2 weeks, and the first opportunity we had to work out on the field. So we had a great 8-inning scrimmage yesterday, and we'll have another scrimmage today. So, I can't remember, other than in 2015, a long time span like this that we weren't out on our field getting ready for the upcoming season. I'd just start by saying that, our guys are excited. We're excited to be less than 3 weeks away from opening day, and they're working incredibly hard and looking forward to another great season of Virginia baseball. And, this little weather event that we have, it'll pass, and our guys got a lot of great work inside. The indoor football facility was key for us over the last 2 weeks, and we're just looking forward to another great season.
It's not unusual for you guys to be ranked in the preseason, but it's been a while since you've had this kind of ranking heading into a year. Do you welcome those expectations?
Yeah, Jeff, with regards to the preseason rankings and things like that, they are what they are. We all know that, most of the time when those things come out, the season doesn't end out playing out that way. I'm not saying in our individual case, but if you look at any sport. But what that speaks to, the preseason ranking, is that there's people out there that follow college baseball very closely, that they believe that we returned quite a bit from last year, and that we have some really great additions, and that our skill set that we have in our players is at a very, very high level. Now we have to go out and get better every day and earn the opportunities that we get throughout this season at the end of the season. So the players understand that. Yes, it's been a while that we've been this highly preseason ranked, but I love it. My feeling about it, and I shared this with the players, is bring it on. That's great. Candidly, you'd rather be ranked number one in the preseason. I would. We don't look at it as pressure or expectations or anything. The real expectations are what they go out here and do every day in preparation for the opportunity that they have. So, but it's great. It speaks to the talent that we have, which is really interesting because you all dissect rosters and things like that, and you look at last year's team, and you're replacing a guy that played shortstop every game for you for 3 years, and that the records he holds regarding hits and getting on base in his career and Griff O'Farrell are amazing. You look at what Ethan Anderson did, Casey Sauke did, Anthony Stefan. You look at the year Bobby Whalen had. So you start to look at those things. You're like, wow, where does this come from? That's a lot of offensive production to replace. But we've got some pretty key guys back, and we've made some nice additions. And then also on top of that is the evolution of some players too. I think about somebody like, Eric Becker and Luke Hansen. They split time last year at third base. Well, those guys have really improved, and they're now ready for that next step in their development. You talk about, an addition of some transfers, both from a pitching standpoint and position player standpoint, that are really high-level players that have learned over the last 5 months what our standards are in our baseball program, and I believe they're prepared to uphold those. So really exciting, and looking forward to heading to Puerto Rico and getting our season started.
You mentioned...
got one more mic.
Okay.
Since you brought up Puerto Rico, what do you think that experience will be like, and what do you guys think you'll get out of that?
Well, Marty, I'm really excited about the opening trip. How this came about is there's a couple of groups in Puerto Rico that have just thought about having this opening tournament for years, kind of like in college basketball, where you go Bahamas and things like that. Well, it ultimately all came together, and we wanted to be in the inaugural year of it. So there will be 8 teams that will be going to Puerto Rico, playing in 2 separate stadiums where the World Baseball Classic was played. Great high-level stadiums, and the tourism of Puerto Rico has really wrapped their arms around the 8 teams coming there. And so we're excited about it. You know, they've got the teams for next year, for 2026 already and beyond, and it's going to be covered on the ESPN platforms. So great opportunity to get to some great weather. We fortunately have a new player in our program. Chris Arroyo is born and raised in Puerto Rico. So for him, it's an opportunity to go back home, and really neat for him, but for our entire team to play against some good high-level competition and get the season started off.
You mentioned Griff. Who gets that first crack here in the preseason?
At
taking his job.
Well, you know, you watch practice and you'll see a number of players take ground balls at shortstop. You know, Eric Becker is a significant candidate there, and I haven't made the 100% decision. I've shared that with the players that we're going to continue to compete, and there's a lot of players that want that job. You know, Henry Godbout can play the position. Luke Hansen. There's a first-year infielder by the name of Jackson Soroy that is a really, really good player that is going to have a great future in our program. So there's a lot of options there. I'll tell you, coming out of the fall, I thought Eric Becker looked the best and the most consistent. Henry Godbout, had an injury issue lingering from playing in the Cape Cod League that really limited his opportunities on the infield, but he looks better now and is in a better position now. So we'll just kind of see over the next week to 10 days how it plays out. And hey, this has happened before. Sometimes how you start the year isn't necessarily what you do in the middle or the end. But it's good for the players to earn it, and they know whether it's that position and others that they got to continue to deliver to earn the job.
With Griff, you're not just replacing your shortstop, obviously. It's
a
leadoff hitter, clubhouse leader. How do you see y'all replacing his impact in those areas?
Well, Griff O'Farrell I've been so fortunate to be doing this, being a college baseball coach, just a little bit over 30 years. And it's not too often that you come across a player that is not only highly skilled and talented, but is an incredible leader in your clubhouse, just totally gets it. And that's Griff O'Farrell, right? So you never replace somebody like that. You just try to replace it in different ways. And, the guy made huge impact in our program. So, how you do it is it comes from a collection of players. The leadership is crucial, and there's been a number of guys that have really emerged to kind of take over that role. Luke Hansen being one of them. He's been in the program now in his 3rd year and knows what it takes and values his teammates and getting them to where we need to be to meet our standard.
You mentioned Eric Becker. How have you seen him evolve from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I tell you what, I've said this about Eric Becker. In 95% of the programs in the country, Eric Becker would have hit in the top of the lineup last year and been in the lineup every game last year as a freshman. He's that kind of player. He proved that by making the U.S. national team this summer with only playing half the games for us. He's ready. He's a very talented player. He loves the game. He plays the game with a smile on his face, and I just think he's going to have a huge year for us and a huge career here because he's that talented and has the intangibles to be successful.
About Chris Arroyo, he's definitely got that two-way talent. What's the plan for him this year?
Yeah, well, the plan for Chris Arroyo will be that, if as a pitcher for us, because he's got a chance to be in the lineup every day for us, he has to start. It's impossible to relieve a guy like that. So we'll look at him in somewhere in between. Some weeks we have 5 starts that need to be made. Every week we have at least 4. So he's in the mix potentially for a starting role on the mound for us, and then to play first base for us. And, he had an incredibly impactful fall, probably I would say the MVP of the fall from the offensive standpoint for us. That said, the spring's a different ballgame, okay? And he has got to be ready to play every day and perform. If he does, like we think he can do, he's somebody that can hit in the middle of our lineup every day and really, really impact our lineup and impact us on the mound.
About Wolfolk and Didewick, can you go into what went into those conversations about those guys staying? Clearly, they're veteran leaders with lots of talent.
Yeah. Well, each of Wolfolk and Didewick made their own decisions. That decision to whether to go into professional baseball or return to school, or that a high school player has to make on whether to sign professionally out of high school or come to college, that's got to be each individual player's and family's decision. In both of their cases, they made the decision that they felt like this year it was best for them to be at the University of Virginia. Maybe part of that was because what they want to accomplish as a team. Maybe they felt like there was still some meat left on the bone at the end of the year last year, and they want to come back and have a great experience here at the university for another year. In Jay's case, he wants to graduate from the University of Virginia, and by him coming back, that guarantees that to happen. And I just, when you start your professional baseball career, whenever it is, you need to make sure that you're fully equipped and prepared to have success in professional baseball. And both of them felt like that was best to be back here another year.
Are there first years besides Jackson who you could see having significant roles this season?
Yeah, James Nunnally is a left-handed hitting outfielder that proved this fall to his teammates that he is a really high-caliber player, can really, really hit. And so James Nunnally is going to, without question, factor into our lineup. I don't know where at yet, but he earned that this fall based on his performance, and just going to be one of those great players at the University of Virginia that makes an impact as a freshman and keeps getting better and better. I'd say on the position player side, we'll see about some other ones. It depends how it kind of unfolds. But from the pitching staff standpoint, Tomas Valinkas is a left-handed pitcher that I've said this before about him. He's as good as you get to college baseball that doesn't choose to sign out of high school. And he will make an enormous impact on our pitching staff right away the first weekend. So really talented young man, left-handed pitcher.
Matt Augustine had a significant impact down the stretch in the postseason for you. Where is he in his development? And you have a role in mind?
Yeah, Matt Augustine really proved to us last year that he can handle the game in high leverage situations. He was a go-to guy for us at the most important time last year. Not only does he have good stuff, he's got great poise. We'll see. It probably factors into the bullpen somewhere. He's a little bit behind our other pitchers, so he actually might not be available the first weekend. We'll see. He's just a touch behind. These preseason throwing programs, when you have a pitching staff, it's inevitably 25% of them are a little bit behind others because maybe they had a snag in their throwing program or whatever, and he's just a touch behind the big group of them. But I feel like Matt Augustine is going to make a big impact on our pitching staff for sure.
Do you have an update on William Kirk?
Yeah, William Kirk is out for the season. William Kirk was the New Jersey State Player of the Year last year. Really, really talented left-handed pitcher that unfortunately had a knee injury that required surgery, and he will be out for 1 year, and he will not pitch for us. He will medical redshirt for us this year.
And then Hodges and O'Connor,
where
are they in there?
Yeah, Hodges and O'Connor are doing great. They are throwing bullpens, building up. There's still more that has to happen. They will not be available when the season starts. That's not the prudent thing to do by them, nor by our team, but they are progressing as good as you can progress, and they, provided everything goes the way we believe it'll go, they will both make impacts on this year's team on the pitching staff.
You mentioned Nate Bassett in the fall as a guy with a lot of potential who hasn't thrown in a college game yet. Has he continued?
Yeah,
to
Nate
progress?
Bassett. He's he had Tommy John surgery last year. It's very unfortunate. He's got a really live arm, a great arm. He's one of those guys that's also in that group that's behind other guys. The Tommy John is different for everybody. Some guys come back in 10 or 12 months. Some guys it takes them 18, 24 months, and there's no formula for it. But he is a guy that we will not see in the early part of the season, but he's somebody that has a ton of talent, and I think when he does get back and start to log some innings, will be a great pitcher in our uniform.
You said in the fall there's a lot of guys that can factor into that starting rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the guys that have kind of stood there? Obviously, Blanco and Wolf are coming back.
Yeah. Obviously, Blanco, Woolfolk, Bryson Moore. I really like this kid. He pitched sparingly his first year, but he's a big, strong right-handed pitcher that had a nice fall for us. Bryson's definitely in the mix. Joey Colucci's a junior college transfer, right-handed pitcher that pitched really well in the fall, is pitching well in the preseason here. As I mentioned, Tomas Valinkis has been pitching really well too. Kevin Jaxel, I believe Kevin had a really nice freshman year for us, and last year didn't go great for him. There was a couple of starts that he made that were really good. I believe he's back to pitching like he did with more experience than his freshman year. So he's done some nice things. So those essentially are kind of the core guys right now, 3 weeks away, that we're looking at for those starter roles.
Speaking on the outfield, you mentioned guys like Nunley. Is the plan still to convert Henry Ford into the outfield and Ditterwick back? Just what's the competition like? Yeah,
the competition's great. In the outfield, Henry Ford has been working out all fall and all preseason as an outfielder. Done a little bit of first base, but mainly in the outfield. That transition's going really well. He's going to be a high caliber outfielder. Harrison Ditterwick's doing great. Obviously, Nunnally out there. Aiden Teal has really played a great center field. He hit a home run yesterday in our scrimmage. Walker Buchanan's a big, strong. Y'all may or may not remember his dad, who was an All-American here and a first-round draft choice. He's in our Virginia Baseball Hall of Fame. He's gotten a lot better from his freshman year. He hit a ball in the bleachers yesterday in the scrimmage. So I love that there's good, healthy competition. And as the weeks go on, it'll kind of sort itself out and what roles they're in, but the competition's great.
You guys have hit a lot of home runs.
I forgot Arroyo when we were talking about the starters.
You guys have hit a lot of home runs the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Any reason for the uptick in power the last
year?
I
mean, we have. I mean, it's been a huge uptick in our home runs. I think a little bit of that is player acquisition, right? What kind of profile player are you looking at? But the game's changed at every level, right? There's just a lot more home runs and things like that. So I think it's a combination of, over the last couple of years, who have we recruited? Really over the last 4 or 5 years, right? Who have we recruited, and what kind of profile is that? And the game's changed that way a little bit too. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but maybe there's people that think out there that maybe the ball is at there's been a huge jump in the home runs in college baseball. We haven't changed our dimensions here, right? The bats haven't changed, right? So it's just I think it's a combination of things, and I think this team is capable of having those kind of offensive numbers again. There's a lot of guys in the lineup that can hit some numerous balls out of the ballpark, so that's exciting. The reason that's important is you feel like you're never out of any game, right? You feel like you're a couple of guys on and a 3-run home run, and you're right back in it.
Was there a moment when y'all talked about the type of players you wanted to recruit in regards to maybe adding more power to the lineup?
There wasn't necessarily a moment. I just think that evolves. I can't tell you it's 100% intentional, right? But you start to look at generally where the game has went, and it's no different than the transfer portal and NIL, right? I mean, our job as coaches, as leaders of the program, are to assess what it takes and adapt. And if you don't adapt, you're going to get passed by quickly. Okay, and so I wouldn't say that there was a moment. It's just kind of how it evolved, and when you're deciding, hey, we're gonna when we go out and get Chris Arroyo, right? You evaluate a guy like that, and you look at it and say, hey, this guy for us might have a chance to hit 15, 20 balls out of the ballpark, versus maybe a more defensive guy at first base, right? Or a multiple skill guy that just hits for a high average. So a part of it's intentional. I wouldn't say that there was an aha moment, but it just kind of happens over time as the game progresses.
Do you have any update on Jack O'Connor?
He's doing great. He's throwing bullpens, and no idea on the time frame that he'll be back. But Jack's progressing really, really well and eager to pitch. But we've got to make the smart decision with these guys, with the injury guys. Your job as a coach is to make decisions that you believe are in the best interest of the team and the player long run. If you make a decision to bring a guy back too early because you want to win a game on the first weekend or the second weekend, and you put your team in jeopardy for May and June, that's not good. And so that's why the pitching depth is so important. And, the early part of the season, the great thing about it is there'll be pitch limits, and you'll get a look at a lot of opportunities. This pitching staff is a staff that I believe will get better and better throughout the year from experience, but also, too, as you gain guys back that are back in the mix, coming back from injury, will make it that much stronger.